Today we're here to discuss the cabinet which has been sworn in Patna at Gandhi Maidan and the future implications of what this government would hold for India and for the state. So Amrit, how do you look at the composition of the cabinet which has already come in for its share of criticism?
I think the most talked about thing is likely to be the swearing in of Lalu's both children, and that the most RJD leader Abdul Bari Siddiqui has been sworn in as the number 4 person. So a lot of people would have expected that he would have been the deputy CM, though there were rumors roaming around that it could be Tejaswi or Tej Pratap who are likely to be deputy CM. But there is no official confirmation yet that there is going to be a deputy CM, except that the person who was sworn in after Nitish was one of Lalu's sons.
I find this interesting because as our viewers and all of us listening in would know that the fact that Lalu Prasad got his wife Rabdi Devi to take over from him has put his dealings with his family at the heart somewhat of his politics and in the way people see it, so it's interesting. But there are clearly a lot of double standards that go into how Indian political watchers look at dynasty, because whether you look at the United States or you look at India, various phases of life, or even in the NDA and in the Congress and in other parties, dynasties or political dynasties play a role. But I think there comes an element of illegitimacy in a dynastical appointment or a swearing in when it is not an elected representative. But I think where I'm slightly skeptical about people being skeptical about Lalu Prasad's 2 sons is because Lalu Prasad, the central figure in the RJD who has powered his alliance to 80 seats in Bihar, is not in the scene at all, so he cannot hold office. And so it's clearly is a transferring by a generation, and the 2 sons have come by a legitimate electoral process of having won an election. So, but your point about Abdul Bari Siddiqui is interesting, that maybe attempts should have been made to very overtly recognize seniority and break that up. But don't you think it's funny that had they done that, then we would say it's a very measured, proportional politics, or the politics of social justice and not of development. So, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
No, I would put it this way. Would it have not helped Lalu's politically, would it not have been a more politically suave decision to have one of his children sworn in as a minister and have Siddiqui as the deputy CM? Politically, would not have that suited Lalu more than having this discourse shifted towards his family right at the onset of the swearing in itself.
Yeah, I think the way no one can.
My question is it a politically smart move on the part of Lalu to have both his children inducted into the ministry, both are first-time MLAs, and then have them as the number 2 and number 3 in the cabinet?
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. Where I would think this would be a smart move is, there's no time like the present when he has so much of political goodwill and capital. And this is clearly, as we know from what Lalu and Nitish has been saying, this is only part 1 of the unfolding of the Bihar idea, the Bihar juggernaut if you like. Lalu has said he's going to go to Banaras. There are the Rajya Sabha seats coming up now. They have the Bihar Assembly stitched up. So I think there'll be many more opportunities for things to flow out. So I think what Lalu wanted to do was establish clearly that he's out of Bihari cabinet. So I would actually turn it around, that I'm out of here. Here are my 2 young sons who speak a different language, who are my sons. So they are kind of, they have the imprimatur of the Lalu Yadav brand of politics. And right now, while my political stock is high, I'll do this now. These are the difficult things to do, to make the generational shift in terms of electoral politics in Bihar. Then he can move on and do other things which this alliance would do. Which brings us to the next point. What next? I mean, what does this mean, A, for Bihar very quickly, and number 2, for the rest of the country?
You made this thing reference about the idea of Bihar. I mean, what does it portend for national politics? So here again, I mean, with the cabinet itself, the question will be now, rather than discuss the idea of Bihar, you might find the conversation now shifting back to family. The idea of Bihar was not about family. Idea of Bihar, basically, as Lalu and Nitish represented, was to come. I mean, there is a certain kind of politics which is unfolding in the country, and the socialist groups have come together, and there is a larger idea about development plus Mandal, rather than these 2 being kept separate as 2 separate narratives, which is what Bihar had seen in the last time. Now they are bringing it together. So, and the kind of the platform which was there on Patna, and the number of national leaders who were present, that I think offers interesting possibility about what could be the
future
coalition in the offing.
Yes.
I mean, are we seeing something like you would have reported it perhaps. I mean, in the 80s when N.T. Rama Rao had brought these things together, and you had the National Front shaping, which was perhaps the first proper all India based anti-Congress, anti-BJP front which came up.
And it's the first time a Rath is used very visibly before Advani, several years ago.
Are we seeing some sort of a politics unfolding like that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I don't know what contours in terms of exactly what events this journey would take. But clearly this is, this is the blowing of the bugle. And even if it doesn't follow a very traditional thing of all other parties versus the BJP, but clearly realizing that there is a vacuum in the anti-BJP or rather the anti-Modi camp of ideas and politics, this is the first or maybe the second or the 1.5th pitching of flags there that we are here. So while you could say that Delhi was, but because Delhi was more run by a newbie party which really hadn't much of an innings there. So I think yes, certainly this means the establishing of the North and South poles and of saying that we're here and this is what we stand for. Come one, come all those who are opposed to the BJP, come to us with your set of ideas where we have a more refined and a more evolved idea of development not necessarily meaning only construction or big roads or highways, but of welfare, of education, of a commitment to people's welfare, which will be central to that. But all of that still needs to be fleshed out, and we need to see how it goes.
With Nitish's, you have the big development projects, infrastructure projects is lined up. Plus, there is also a talk about social justice. There is also a narrative which is essentially about... Which is very
unapologetic about social justice issues.
That we are a pluralistic country and we have to stay together for it. But one missing crucial element in the whole lineup was the absence of any Mayawati or say
Akhilesh
Samajwadi Party presence.
Yeah, in fact, UP made its presence felt by its absence. It was startling that, these are the two prominent cowbelt, Hindi, heartland states. UP is going to go into an election. But I think there's so much of competition between the two that they didn't want to be measured against each other with a galaxy of national leaders present. So I think it was that more than any other thing that kept them down. And there's been so much of talk about them coming together, which clearly is a very misplaced way of reading this verdict. This is not about all opposite poles coming together. But so I think they just avoided those questions by staying away. So we'll be back for more soon. Thank you.
Thank you.